Do you ever wonder why you have to do so much self-work before you start making amends?
Well, in this episode, we'll show you how our self-work helps set the stage so we could make better amends in life. Well, it's August 3rd, and it's time for another double shot from My Sober Truth. Sean, again, we're kind of on this roll for this first 7 days of the month, talking about, are you ready? Are you ready? And we've kind of touched on this topic already in the first 2 episodes of the month. And this whole concept of the step work before step 8 and step 9 gets you ready for making the amends. And again, there's so much good gold in this today's daily reflection. If you haven't read it, please do read it. But as we dive in, for us talking about this, it's all about being effective when we make those amends, having our heart in the right place. And so I'd love your take on this whole concept. It's how did that step work you did in those first 7 steps get you ready for this process?
Well, one of the things we talk about a lot in recovery is, ego, and so many of us, while we were out running and gunning in the life, doing the things that we've done that have made us not like ourselves very much, in order to help combat the fact that we didn't care that much for ourselves, we built up this huge false ego, this false pride. So what I've really done in these first steps is I worked on trying to get rid of that false pride, to get rid of that ego, to want to be able to live this life, be of service to others, do the things that we can do to help get this peace in our lives. Hopefully we've gained an amount of peace in our life, and hopefully we've liked it, and you want more of it. I know I did, and I know a lot of people do. You start getting some of that peace and you go, wow, I've never had this before. I'd like some more of that. And so doing this work, doing these steps, it helps work on that ego. It helps get some of that out of the way. And getting my ego out of the way was a huge step in getting me ready to hear what someone else had to say to me. Because I don't know if anyone else is like me out there. They started doing amends, and I had to start hearing some things that I didn't want to hear. I started hearing about some things that I had forgotten that I had done. I started hearing about some things that I didn't know. It wasn't necessarily that I'd forgotten about it. It was just that I didn't even know that hurt anybody's feelings. I had no idea that had hurt someone. And some of the things that I felt bad about didn't affect other people the way I thought that it affected them. So I had to get myself in a spiritual position to be ready to deal with those things, to be ready to deal with when someone who I had a resentment against that I'd been working on, and I'm trying to make an amends to them, and they start telling me about myself, I have to be ready to accept that. Because the goal, and it's a hard thing to get your head wrapped around, the goal is not to get everybody to say, oh, I accept your apology, things are great now. The goal is to clean up my side of the street in a way that allows me to have some peace about my life and move forward and make my life better. And believe, here's a big one, I have to believe in myself that I have done this work and done it right and done it properly. That is what will give me the peace to continue working on. And it will not only does it give me the peace, it also will give me a sense of true pride. I know that I've done the right things. I can hold my head high and go on about my life instead of having to feel bad about myself. I can take these lessons that I've learned, and it's the lessons that I'm going to learn while trying to make amends. I'm going to learn some stuff, and I'm going to get taught some lessons that I wasn't really prepared to learn. But the better I can be, and the deeper I can go when working the steps leading up to making amends, the more the better it will be when I start making the amends, because the challenges that will arise, I will be better prepared to handle.
Agreed. And so, if we had an audience sitting in front of us today and we asked this question and somebody raised their hand and asked this question, says, what would you do? What would you say to somebody who's listening to this, reading the daily reflection for the next 2 days, and they come to the revelation, they don't know if they're ready or not?
I go back and do some more work.
Right.
There's nothing that says you have to do these amends like right away. I really have to remember that I am working a spiritual program, right, and that person that I'm dealing with or I need to deal with may not be working a spiritual program. They still may be neck deep, right, in all the trials and tribulations that I was in before I got here. Absolutely. And they may not be ready to hear an amends from me. They may not want an amends from me. And it's why anytime I feel like if I'm worried about going into making amends, and I'm going to be, right, because I don't know how it's going to turn out. It's nothing wrong with saying, all right, let me pull back from this a little bit. Let me do a little more self-work on myself. Right. Now, eventually, I'm going to have to face up to it. There's going to be a fear there that I'm going to have to face, and I'm going to have to do it. But there's nothing wrong in my book with kind of doubling back and going, all right, let me just make sure I'm where I think I need to be. Because I had some amends to make with people, and I still have some amends to make. I'm not done. Right. It's going to be a lifelong process. Figuring out how to best make amends to people is not always easy. It's one of the reasons why a sponsor is so great. Having someone who's done this work, having someone who knows how to do it, having someone who's not only done the work themselves, but also sponsored other people and helped see the problems, not only that they went through, but the pitfalls that other people have fallen prey to. So the better a spiritual program I am working when I start this process, the better my results are going to be. And I love that thing that you brought up. You mentioned a sponsor, and I would say, talk to your sponsor. Absolutely. Talk to your fellows. Talk to the people that have been on this road a couple steps before you and get their take. Be open, honest, and transparent with them and just ask, do you think I'm ready? Right. There's a point you get to where it's not going to get any better than this. And your sponsor will be able to help you make that decision. Absolutely. Look, you're doing as good as you can do. It's time to face this fear and get it over with. But then there's also a point where your sponsor may go, maybe you're not quite ready yet. Right. Maybe let's go back and do a little more work. Let's talk about some of these things. I love everything that you said. I love the fact that you brought up the sponsors. And I would go one step further and say, even your fellows that are in that group, and again, this just highlights the importance of village life when it comes to recovery. We just need those people around us. We need that combined wisdom as we're working the steps, people who have our backs, people who have our best interests at heart. Because making amends isn't going to be the easiest thing. You mentioned the fear, and we're all going to have that fear. Right. But being prepared will help alleviate some of those concerns. So as we wrap up, let me ask the viewers a question same question I asked you. And so guys, tell us this, especially those who have been down this road before and have made amends or have started that process of making the list. How did the self-work that you did in the first 7 steps help get you ready for this one? Take a few minutes to think about your answer and put your answers down in the comments section below. And I know what you write today is going to help somebody else on their journey. And on that note, from My Sober Truth, I'm Mark. Hey, I'm Sean. And here's hoping that today you stay drunk with success. Hi, folks. Thanks for watching. If you're ready for another round of My Sober Truth, then belly on up to mysobertruth.com and click on the double shot button today. There you'll find the daily inspiration, encouragement, and support that'll help you stay clean, on track, and growing in every area of your life. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, and if you got a minute, stick around, watch another video. Love y'all.